Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from suburban countdown grids, explosive neighborhood bonfire setups, and the multi-POV frenemy warfare of previous standalone formulas, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy tracking grids of locked-door commercial hospitality traps, weaponized room confinement matrices, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of an isolated female traveler running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, panic-slicked perimeters of an ominous roadside motel enclosure, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of an intense, trust-shattering deception matrix with Room 21, the exceptional, pulse-pounding psychological thriller masterpiece engineered by the absolute, undisputed sovereign of suffocating claustrophobic pacing, dark, high-isolation chess matches, and high-velocity domestic dread, Jessica Huntley. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads, where a fierce, deeply desperate primary female asset running an unyielding safety loop, a calculating unseen observer asset running a high-stakes proximity tracking and structural containment routine, and an absolute defense against an encroaching historical threat network collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological thrillers, where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of rigged check-in logs, corrupt local law enforcement alliances, and a deadly ring of active psychological frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised commercial facility ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated doorbolt boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner asset, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, stranded woman takes shelter in a remote motel only to discover the room contains chilling evidence of a past crime, and the doors locked from the outside diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits. This book is engineered to lock you in. Huntley completely dominates the high-precision commercial Captivity meets suffocating night shift paranoia puzzles dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating domestic paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Gillian Flynn, Frida McFadden, Jennifer Rose, and Alice Feeney, while treating realistic physical lockdown logistics, complex localized perspective alignment arcs, and protective high-density psychological extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse asset, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of a blinding midnight rainstorm, intense vehicular failure logs, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas within a desolate highways geographical database. Behind her rigorous travel routing footprints, fake alias registration logs, and defensive architectural boundaries lies an intricate matrix of hidden personal emergencies, deeply buried high-society friction, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight following a catastrophic midnight flight away from a dangerous domestic perimeter, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from an encroaching stormfront, parsing complex behavioral shifts from a deeply unsettling night clerk asset, and shielding her vulnerable personal sovereignty note from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected, high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. Upon checking into the seemingly vacant sanctuary of Room 21, her close-quarter sweeps register a series of alarming forensic data anomalies, stray blood patterns masked beneath heavy industrial cleaners, a hidden personal artifact linking the space to a widely broadcast local missing persons folder, and the chilling mechanical sound of the external deadbolt sliding into a permanent lockdown tier. Behind the motel's faded civilian facade and broken ice machine footprints lies an intricate matrix of systemic extortion, a history of targeted traveler liquidations, and a cold, calculation-heavy target containment blueprint. As the hostile adversarial execution phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across a single night ticking clock timeline, the data mining reveals that her selection for this specific enclosure was not a random coincidence. The standard boundaries of commercial hospitality and peaceful civilian safety protocols crumble, and our central protagonist run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. She is thrust directly into an active, invisible war inside the four walls of Room 21, where a highly manipulative property handler masking their true tracking coordinates and a calculation-heavy psychological shadow network launch aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress her survival data stream. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the small tiled bathroom, dark carpeted floorboards, and private fortified residential rooms into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone.
Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroine is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw physical stamina to preserve her focus before her adversary's relentless, calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes her boundaries. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy deep geographical insulation, continuous psychological gaslighting, and persistent dominance to shatter her defense, only to realize her hardened survival protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their opponent's raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight archival excavation of hidden room crevices, every silent choice to stand off against an encroaching adversary behind standard architectural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the commercial elite's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Jessica Huntley reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial room lockdown or managing a difficult personal disclosure. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of domestic manipulation and psychopathic supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fierce, deeply protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their shared perimeter, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that historical emotional hazards have tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient heroine must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a psychological thriller, claustrophobic captivity noir, locked room mystery, high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one uncovered motel secret triggers a fatal doorway showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Huntley writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, cheap bleach, damp synthetic carpets, cold metal rust, dynamic adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary standalone marvel into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft, alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. Room 21 is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputdownable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.